Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and Spider-Man No Way Home's digital release and upcoming Blu-ray features have finally delivered on a promise many walked out of the theater wishing we got to see more of in the film. A true reunion between Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and Willem Dafoe Green Goblin. Seriously, it's like anytime these two almost shared a frame, Goblin said,
"Norman's on sabbatical, honey."
And instead just like moped in the background with a face full of Tobey's padded ass. Well, a newly released footage shows that these two actually did share a moment together in a removed fight that, once you plug the scene back into the theatrical sequence, actually gives us a fascinating new context for the movie's final act and what was really running through the twisted mind of Green Goblin in this film. I'm gonna break it all down. So earlier in Spider-Man No Way Home, when Tom Holland Peter Parker could not bring himself to even say Norman Osborn's name after he killed Aunt May, Tobey Peter Parker steps up.
I think I can make an anti-serum for Dr. Osborn. Been thinking about it a long time. Gotta cure all of them, right?
Right.
I love this moment from Tobey Maguire because it shows how, for Tobey's Peter, the death of Norman Osborn was a major unresolved regret. In his eyes, it was really the beginning of his problems. It wasn't the bite from the spider bite, it wasn't the death of Uncle Ben. Sure, Uncle Ben's death was a big regret, but in Spider-Man 3, Flint Marco's involvement in that incident actually helped Peter learn the right lessons from that. Osborn's death, however, was the curse that Tobey never healed from.
Don't tell Harry.
That is what poisoned his friendship with Harry Osborn and sent Peter on his dark path in Spider-Man 3, where he lost MJ almost and lost his best friend, something that clearly still haunts the guy.
Do you have a best friend too?
I did. He died in my arms after he tried to kill me. It was heartbreaking.
And now it haunts Ned. This was the true legacy of the Osborn curse. The wound Tobey could never heal, so brutal that Tobey even alludes to it after Goblin stabs him.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I've been stabbed before.
Oh God. Hey.
He was referring to his fight with Harry in Spider-Man 3 when Harry stuck him with a dagger. Now, it's in this moment when these two briefly share their only eye-to-eye connection in the whole film, as Norman wakes up from the Goblin nightmare.
What have I done?
It's really a beautiful moment of acting from Willem Dafoe, but it's a question that he asks Tom Holland Peter, framing it around Norman realizing what he did to May, not what he just did to Tobey. And even when the spell sends them back to their home realities, Tobey's symbolic unhealable wound continues to pain him.
You're in so much pain, huh?
I am.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the new footage that's being released for the No Way Home digital and Blu-ray releases. One brief clip shows the Tobey version of Spider-Man, mask on, fighting Goblin, both of them on the glider. Another clip shows an even more interesting part of this, starting with Tobey Spider-Man alone on that glider, then Goblin leaps down on that glider to join him and then fights him. So what was really going on here? Why was it removed from the film? You know, finding the hidden details here is actually pretty fun. It's not as fun to have hidden details in things like, oh, you're banking. Because traditional banks have all kinds of drawbacks. $35 overdraft fees, bad customer service, no cash back on debit purchases. Well, Albert is completely different from any bank account you have ever had. Albert is free to sign up for and super easy to use. When you get paid onto your Albert card, Albert can get your paycheck to your card up to 2 days early. Now, exact timing depends on your employer's payment schedule, but Albert also doesn't charge overdraft fees ever. And they'll let you advance up to $250 from your next paycheck and pay it back with no interest and no credit check. Managing your personal finances can be hard and stressful, but Albert has a team of financial experts they call geniuses that will look at your situation and help you make a plan and answer any questions if you get stuck. They have an easy to use app interface and lots of great tools to help you save money. So click the link in the description box or go to albert.com/rockstars to download the Albert app today. That's albert.com/rockstars. For a limited time, when you open a checking account and connect a qualifying direct deposit, you'll get $150. And thanks again to Albert for sponsoring this video. Well, when you revisit the beats of the Statue of Liberty battle of this film, the three Peters, with Doc Ock's help, successfully cure Sandman and Electro and Lizard. Tobey Maguire Peter has a reunion with Doc Ock, Andrew Garfield Peter has a reunion with Electro, then Doctor Strange returns from the mirror dimension, and then Tobey's spider sense kicks in.
Can the Spider-Man come out to play?
Then it all unfolds real fast. Goblin swoops in with his razor bats, Doc Ock shields the others, Goblin swipes the box, Doc Ock grabs the glider, Strange lassos the box back, Goblin cuts one of Doc Ock's arms and flees, but leaves a pumpkin grenade in that box. Boom. Now throughout all this, Tobey just kind of watches. And there really isn't a spot in these few seconds when he could have put on his mask and engaged Goblin on the glider. And after that box explodes, the scaffolding on the Statue of Liberty collapses as the shield plunges, but just to a pause point at the statue's chest. MJ falls, Tom tries to save her, and Goblin swipes him out of the way, at which point Andrew saves her instead, but then the shield falls all the way to the bottom through the rest of the scaffolding, smashing everything, and it is total madness. In the falling debris, we can see Tobey webbing Andrew, Doc Ock grabbing Electro, and the cloak saving Ned. No sign at all for who saved MJ if Andrew needed to be saved, but she ends up just running out from behind some rubble. When Ned lands, she's totally fine. So then after the shield falls to the ground level and rolls partly into the water, we then see the shots of Tom still holding onto Goblin's glider, breaking open the grenade chamber, activating a grenade and stuffing it back in to crash them both on that shield for the final throes of the fight. So that moment tracks from Goblin swiping Peter when he tried to save MJ. It is possible then that something could have been cut from the middle of this shield's collapse, from when it fell to halfway down the statue, then Strange's spell exploded, and then it falls the rest of the way. Sometime right before Goblin swiped Tom from saving MJ, like maybe after Goblin cut Doc Ock's arm, Tobey might have leapt after him, and the two could have shared a moment on that glider, and then Tobey got knocked off or something. But since this new footage shows Tobey masked during his fight with Goblin, and Tobey, Andrew, and Tom were only masked in their earlier part of this battle, and then taking them off to talk to Max and to talk to Otto, and then really leaving off the masks for the rest of the film, I think his confrontation with Goblin on the glider happened earlier in the battle when they were still struggling with Sandman and with Electro and Lizard. Actually, I think you can pinpoint the exact second that cut happened. The moment when Tobey cures Sandman, and they actually use archive footage of Thomas Hayden Church from the 2007 film since Church only returned to No Way Home for voiceover work. Tobey is unmasked there, but seconds after this, when we see him, he is masked again, joining Tom and Andrew on the Statue of Liberty head, but swinging in from the side, despite that moment with Flint taking place inside the statue head, which would be right behind where they now are. So I think that was where originally Tobey was gonna fight with Goblin on the glider, who showed up in the first part of the battle. And Tobey and Willem were gonna get their big face-to-face reunion, which would mean that after he cured Flint, Tobey would have put the mask on and then would have collided directly with Goblin's glider, but just the glider. And then after he boarded that glider, Goblin would have hopped down to join him and they would have fought. But why the glider alone? Well, because that was how Tobey subdued Goblin in the 2002 film. Goblin impaled by his own glider. Goblin already killed one person this night with the glider as a drone spear, Aunt May, and now he tried to kill his Peter Parker the same way. Now, I know you might say here, wait, Norman was teleported to the MCU from the Raimiverse before he died that way. Correct, but they deliberately included a line where Flint Marko told him what his fate was going to be.
It was all over the news. Green Goblin impaled by the glider you flew around on.
And right there in Willem Dafoe's eyes, you can see the spark of an idea that he could use this to kill his biggest enemies the same way he was gonna be done in. And so that would have given us that moment between Goblin and Tobey that we all wanted so badly. Like imagine that conversation, Goblin recalling the "Godspeed, Spider-Man!" and then Tobey saying, "Actually, I did tell Harry, and it was the biggest regret of my life," which would lead to Goblin retreating for now, which is why later, Tobey was the first one to notice him when he returns, saying, "Can the Spider-Man come out to play?" Now, really, it just seems like they cut the scene so that Goblin's delayed assault later in the battle would come as a bigger surprise in the second act of the battle, a way to raise the stakes. And it does, it totally works, but it does come at the expense of us getting one face-to-face reunion that we were really hoping for. But hopefully, we will see the full version of the scene on the Blu-ray. You can support New Rockstars by checking out our merch options over at newrockstarsmerch.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Subscribe to New Rockstars. Thanks for watching, and Godspeed, Spider-Man!